tries to sink marriages, and that is unresolved issues. The third thing is unresolved issues. Song of Solomon, chapter 2 and verse 15. Solomon said these words. He said, "Catch for us the foxes, the little foxes that ruin the vineyards, our vineyards that are in bloom." And what he was doing, he was using a metaphor for life. I'm sure that there were probably in that day real foxes that attacked real vineyards and destroyed them. The little things that got in and began to chew on the vineyard, and that vineyard that promised to produce fruit and to bring joy wound up bringing nothing because of the little foxes. And it's a metaphor for life, because if you allow unresolved issues to go on in your life, if you don't deal with that little stuff, what's little starts to become big. Am I right? And I'm talking about those things that keep coming up over and over and over again, and they never get resolved. And maybe you just don't want to talk about them. Maybe it's too personal or too touchy. It could be finances or sex or in-laws or kids or communication, but you don't want to talk about it, so it's kind of off limits, and it becomes an unresolved issues. And I'm telling you that unresolved issues often move a marriage from harmony to hostility, and then to apathy, and from apathy to being broken apart. And the worst unresolved issues aren't the ones that were created in your marriage. They're the ones that you brought into your marriage from the things you learned in the past from your family. How many of you realize that when you get married, you're not a blank slate? Am I right? No, you grew up in a family that they have their certain ways of dealing with things, and it seemed right to you, and you learned certain patterns and ways of doing things. You thought that was normal. Well, your spouse grew up in a family, and they had their own habits and patterns of ways of doing things that they thought were normal. And so when you come together in marriage, there's already an issue, because you don't have the same ideas. And all of us carry baggage into our marriage. Some from our family, some from other, relationships that we've had. And people carry hurts and habits and hang-ups into their marriage. And the more pain that you seem to have had growing up in life, the more family baggage you carry into that marriage, and the more problems there are that you're going to have to resolve. Here is a great statement, all right? If you want to write something down, I don't know if you're into tweeting, but this would be something great to tweet, all right? Marriage doesn't create problems, it reveals them. Amen. Marriage doesn't create problems, it reveals them. It shows the areas of your life that you've got to work on, am I right? If you say, well, I've just been a single adult all my life, I've never been married, it may be that there are hurts and habits and hang-ups and stuff down on the inside of you that, no one's ever gotten close enough to you to really see that, and you can literally go all the way through your life and never have to deal with all that stuff from your past and your family. But let me tell you, if you decide to get married, if you choose to get married, and you let someone in your life, they're going to start seeing you up close and personal, and guess what? After a while, they see all your habits and your hang-ups and your faults and your weaknesses, and pretty soon what happens is they start saying something like this: I've got a little self-improvement program for you. By the way, that's not too good, right? It's called Let's Change You. And then you think about your spouse and you say, well, I've got a little program for you. Let's change you. And then the sparks begin to fly. And some people are still reacting today to things that were in the past. They still react to those things in the present. Maybe your parents, one or both of them, were over-controlling, or maybe they didn't pay attention to you, or they didn't affirm you enough, or maybe they yelled a lot, or maybe one of your parents was flirtatious, or something like that. But for whatever reason in your past, you have resentments, and you've got some anger, you've got some grudges stored up about all those things. And then you come into a marriage, and if your spouse even remotely begins to touch on one of those areas, all of a sudden you find yourself very upset by that, and you begin begin to react to it, and your spouse is standing there and he's scratching his head or her head, and they're saying, I don't understand how this became such a mountain. It seems like such a small thing to me, but it's not a small thing to you, because you see, you've drug it in from a past relationship. You've drug that fear in from another situation that you once had, and you're projecting it on to the situation that you have. So, let me tell you something. If that's happening in your life, let me just say one thing, a couple of things. First of all, it's not fair, am I right, to your spouse about what your past is. And secondly, it's an easy way to kill your marriage. And so what I'm saying, if you're a single adult here today, we've got to learn how to deal with the past. Am I right? That's an important part of life, is learning how to deal with the past. Don't carry any guilt into the marriage. Don't carry grief into the marriage or grudges into the marriage. And if you have unresolved issues, the best thing I think for anybody before they get married is to have premarital counseling. Do you believe that? I do. We've done numerous couples with premarital counseling, and inevitably something will come up. Something will come up. And it's amazing how people get married, they don't talk about anything. Like, how many kids are you planning on having? We've been in, I don't know, how many do you think you want, hon? I don't know. I thought about 6. What? I'm not having 6 kids. Are you kidding? I've had that happen in premarital counseling. They're going to get married in 3 weeks, you know. Okay, let's work stuff out. Let's write it down. Let's get a hold of it. Amen. Amen. And sometimes what we need to do is we need to go back and just think about our past life, our parents, our family. And we kind of need to pick and choose some of those things, right? Pick and choose what was good out of your family. And some things you got to let go of. Has anybody here ever said, I've let go of some stuff that was in my family? I'm just letting that go. I'm not going to be a part of that. I'm going to be different. One of the things in our house was this. And it was from my wife's family. Her mother and dad, they'd say, Jareen, you're going to do this. And she'd say, well, why? Has any parent ever said this? Because I told you so. Who had a mom and dad like that? Because I told you. There's no explanation needed. You're just going to do it because I told you so. Well, Jareen was determined that our kids were not going to be raised like that. Instead, we raised our kids to be little lawyers, okay? They could talk, they could discuss, we would talk about it. But let me tell you something, in the end it turned out okay because she decided, I'm going to let go of that little piece and I'm going to engage this little piece. Come on, let's just give the Lord a big praise today, because issues can be resolved. Am I right? And then the last thing that causes marriages or relationships to sink